Have you figured out your niche? Are you helping adding value to other people's lives? Then you're in the right place. Welcome to Munira's Musings with your host, co-author Munira Zahabi.
From Chicagoland, this is a special episode of Munira's Musings with our guest from Turkey, Nasreen. Welcome to Munira's Musings.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Munira. It's a pleasure to be here.
Most welcome. Most of you know that I am the niche navigator and I help people and business owners navigate to their niche. He wrote a book, The Philosophy of Niche Principles. We are now going to discuss this book today because this is the first kind of an interview that I've done where we haven't showcased an editor before. And this is all because of this book. And so first of all, thank you so much for doing this for me. And Nasreen, thank you for being on my show and editing also my book. How are you?
I'm great, thank you. But I must tell you that the pleasure is all mine. This is the first time I have been asked to come live and to talk about a book that I've edited. I'm looking forward to you probing about my thoughts on the book. I have so much to tell the readers and so much to share with your readers and so many reasons to give them to actually get their fingers walking and go out to get a copy of this fantastic book. So thank you for having me. Thank you for having a first of its kind. I've never done this before, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to have the first. It's an honor to be your editor.
You are most welcome. So when you say this is the first kind, how many books have you edited so far, Nasreen?
I've kind of lost exact count, because I'm always working with somebody's book or another. But in the last 3 years, I think about 15 to 20 books editing for that. And apart from that, articles and poems and little work that comes in that needs to be edited. So I've lost count actually.
That's awesome. So you are a writer yourself.
Yes.
How did you move from writing into editing?
I worked very closely with Dr. Sensei on many of his projects, and he was kind enough to make a space for me on his leadership program some years ago. And it was actually through that program that we actually saw the potential I had authoring books. And in doing that and in publishing my first book, he again gave me a break and said, I'm doing Ignition. It's a collaboration of 25 plus authors, and we need to edit their stories. These are the things I'm looking for in their stories. I need you to manage the project for me. And I did. And Ignition was born. And from there on, I've never looked back, because that product actually spoke for itself. And then I got other multi-author projects to work with, and then it's just been nonstop from there. So, everybody starts somewhere. You're the niche navigator, and so you understand what it's all about. To stumble upon your talents, you have them. You don't think they can be explored adequately, and then oops, suddenly an opportunity drops into your lap, and it becomes you turn passion into profit, and that's exactly what I've done. So that's how it all happened.
Very well said. Thank you so much for sharing that. And we work with people who are constantly looking for that niche. And I tell people that you have your niche inside of you. We only have to drill it out and dig it out.
Absolutely.
So
I can't agree more.
When you take a project to edit, do you say right away? Do you say yes to the project right away, or do you look at the book first and start to read it and then accept the project to edit?
I'm a little bit selfish when it comes to the projects that I choose. I think the number one criteria for me is that I have to resonate with it. With resignation comes a certain amount of belief in the project. And with belief in the project comes the quality of the work that I do with the project. Because once I read something I resonate with, once I read something I believe in, not as a profitability factor, not because I see a bestseller coming, but because I believe that it will be of value in the marketplace. There are millions of books on the market, Munira.
Yes.
And I have read many lead magnets. I've read many books, and I have said no to editing quite a few of them. Your work, whether it's authoring or editing, has to be in line with your value systems.
Okay.
So, for example, if I get a book that is full of expletives, is completely amoral, it's not a project I would accept, not because I can't be objective about it, but because it is not something that resonates with me, doesn't interest me, there's no appeal in it for me. So I'm a little bit selfish where that is concerned. The book must resonate with me, I must have a belief in it. But above all, the author and I must click.
Okay.
And when authors are looking for editors also, I never tout myself as a possible editor for the book. I always tell authors, you must choose the editor who you identify with and who identifies with you, because it's a long-term relationship. Editing a book is not something, it's not a complete package that comes to you always, just in one go, like yours came to me. Editing is also something that takes place over a period of time, over a certain number of drafts for your project. So you must be able to get along with your editor. Your editor must be able to see your vision, so to speak. They must agree with your vision. You must be flexible enough to see their vision and the merit with which they give you the kind of developmental editing advice that they give you. And if you feel that you can work with this person and develop a long-term relationship with them, then you take on a project.
Okay. So there's a dating period, if you will, where you go back and forth.
Yeah, there is. Many authors, approach me to edit, but decide not to choose me as an editor, despite the developmental vision I have for the book. And that's quite all right. Their books get published. They may or may not become bestsellers, but what worked for them was that they clicked with an editor, and that's what works for the book.
So why did you choose my book?
Selfish reasons again. I think you approached me to edit just one chapter for you because you wanted to see what the possibility was in sort of the meat of your book. And when I read that chapter and I did that developmental edit for you, I already resonated with it because my niche happily fell into my lap. Whereas for others, they have to find that niche, and our role is to help them find it. So that number one, was the buy-in factor for me, the fact that I already resonated with that one chapter. The second was that I read one chapter, I learned a lot from it, but I was selfish enough to want to edit it because I wanted to learn the rest. So I took on the project. I never do anything just for the money. If something intrigues me and I want to learn, I do and learn at the same time. Because as an editor, I must develop myself. Any professional must develop themselves on the job. So I believe in on-the-job training. So I use what I read to learn. and I use it to develop, and I help others to develop through it. Because that is what it's all about. You learn from me, I learn from you. You have a set of skills that I don't have. I imbibe that from you. It doesn't matter whether I do it editing your book or whether I get into a classroom with you. I learn. And the last reason that I chose to edit your book is because I've known you professionally and personally for a number of years now. One of the best qualities you have as a professional is that you have a very straightforward, shoot from the hip kind of approach to things. And I like that. I resonate with that. So I know that if I take on a project from an author with your caliber, then I'm going to enjoy what I read, and I'm going to enjoy editing it as well. So those are the reasons I took on your project more than anything else.
Well, thank you. Thank you. So when you read this book, what stood out for you?
I've read and edited many books, but few authors manage to achieve this. You come to the point pretty quickly. You don't beat around the bush. And that stood out for me, and I really enjoyed editing the book because of it. You're very direct. Like I said, you have a shoot from the hip approach to whatever you do, and I enjoy that. So that in the book stood out clearly. It brought out your personality. Your personality is your book, Munira, and your book is your personality. So anybody who actually wants to get to know you, who wants to know what Munira Zahabi is all about and why she is the niche navigator, apart from the content of the book, can get to know you through your book. That stood out for me. And the fact that it's written in what I call a KISS, the formula of KISS. Keep it short, simple, sweet, and savory.
Okay.
So that is another thing that stood out for me. And your authority comes through very, very clearly in the book. Your authority on the subject of finding your niche, keeping that niche going, and maintaining that niche over a number of years comes out clearly in the book, and that stood out for me clearly. So this book is all value, and it stands out clearly for any reader to see upfront, and it's memorable because of it.
Yeah, I tended to put my personal stories in there because nobody else can say it better than I do. So that's why I shared a lot of my own personal stories and stories that I had heard from my parents. And that were just stories at that time, but never understood the lessons behind it until we grow up, right? So
until you found your niche, right?
Till I found my niche. What makes this book different?
Exactly what you said. Many authors attempt to tell stories in their books. But in your book, I didn't get so much of a third-party perspective on stories as I got a Munira perspective on the stories. But any author can tell stories. Your book and your style is in the ability to tie in your story with the theme of the chapter or the lesson that you want to teach in that particular chapter. So that makes a huge difference for the book, because it is not just a bunch of text and a bunch of philosophies and principles that you are sharing with your readers. Your stories are actually giving the readers reason to believe in the principles that you are talking about, because you have been able to justify your principles through simple storytelling. One story that stands out for me is the story about your father allowing you to drive when you were an unlicensed driver, the response that you got from him when you had the little boo-boo. I don't want to story bomb for the readers that will pick up your book, but the simple lesson in that and what it did to build your confidence levels, says very clearly and shouts very loudly in the book that Munira Zahabi understands what life experiences teach you in order to take risks and be successful taking it. So that is what stands out in your book. It makes a difference. It's a different book. Yes, many authors tell stories, but the simplicity of your stories and the impactful lessons that come from it make your book different from any other I've ever edited.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So what can you tell the readers who haven't purchased the book or have purchased and not read the book? What do you think they will benefit from once they read it?
There is a clear-cut thought process, readers, that went out in this book. Munira thought about informing you about what a niche is, why it's important, why it contributes to your success at what you do, what it does and how it develops you as an individual and as a professional. She's outlined those things at the beginning, and then she's delved into the process of finding the niche and maintaining that niche and giving you the ingredients, for want of a better word, of what you need to do and who you need to become once you found your niche, so that you can make that profitable, successful, and viable in your business. So that is the beauty of the book. But there's another factor and added value that readers will certainly get from this book. And that is the reflective and reviewing questions that are included at the end of every chapter. I believe that the book doubles up as a workbook and allows the reader to get interactive with the philosophies that you are spelling out, so that they can measure where they are at now and put plans in place to get where they need to go in line with the principles that you are outlining. So a reader could easily go from place A to place Z in the space of the number of chapters that you have in the book, because you've given them the opportunity to stop, reflect, review, make notes, and actually navigate their way through their niches, which is the beauty of what you do, which is totally in line with your business and your purpose, and which spells out extremely beautifully and a great value add for readers. And I absolutely encourage people who are still struggling to find their niche to go out and get a copy of this book and work through it, so that you will be allowing Munira to help you find your niche.
One question that comes up right now is, do you think that those people who've already found their niche can benefit from this book as well?
Absolutely. I may be an editor, but there are always norms and trends that change. And that means I have to continuously learn. The minute you think you know it all, the minute you think you have enough to sustain your business, and that's adequate, is when you lose the plot in any business. So people who are in their niches must still measure how much they've actually accomplished and how much they've missed out on. And they should fill in the gaps, because it will optimize their businesses if they do. Personally speaking, I may have been the editor of your book, but I've taken many examples from it, applied it to my own business, and changed a lot of what I do so that I can optimize my own business. So absolutely, professionals who have already found their niche can learn a lot from the book, can develop themselves further, and may even stumble upon a new niche if they think about things in a different way.
Perspective.
Absolutely. Perspective.
So what's the one thing that you have used from my book that, since you edited it till this day, and you will continue to use?
You tell a story about Lisa and the Countess of Cupcakes.
Yes.
I think that's what it's called, or somewhere close to that. And I don't want to story bomb for people who haven't read the book, but it was your approach to a woman who knew her talent, but didn't have the ability to, not the ability, she didn't take the risks she needed to take to step out of her job and actually explore her own ability to run a cupcake business. And I've applied it to new authors who always write this sentence on writing groups. I want to write a book, but I don't know how. And that is what I used to ignore, that because I used to just think, well, if you want to write a book, then write a book. But you changed my perspective and you opened up doors for me where I didn't see potential. And the fact is, if you ask the correct questions, then you will open up doors for yourself that you never saw possible. You will also open up doors for others, which is the purpose you are in business, which is the purpose for which you are in business anyway. My niche is to help other authors become published authors. But what good am I if I am only helping people with the potential? How about I tap into people who know somewhere inside that they want to, but don't see their potential? So you've told me to ask the correct questions.
No, that's it. That's perfect, because thank you. I think it starts with belief inside of you. And, Lisa, when I approached her, she didn't approach me, but when I approached her, she knew her cupcakes were better. She knew that. The only thing is, when I asked her to make some, she was taken back and, you want to buy something from me? Well, put your money where your mouth is, right? Let's get you done.
Exactly. That's the response I get from prospective authors. Do you really want to help me? Yes, I do. Why not?
That's awesome. Thank you so much. So, folks, this is a raw interview where we are talking about my book. If you've just joined in, it's the philosophy of niche principles. These are principles that I have believed in and which I have followed to my niche as the niche navigator. And these are stories, heartfelt stories that I have gone through, that have happened to me in person, that I have shared these. It's like Nasreen said, it's a workbook as well, which helps you think about how to believe in yourself, in your product that you have, and then step out of comfort and complacency and just step out into the uncomfortable part of your life and become the person that you were meant to be. See, nothing good comes out of wishing. There is no magic fairy out there who's going to make things happen for you. You have to take the first step. And I know Walt Disney wouldn't agree with me because Cinderella's godmother doesn't show up for me. But she, for me, I had to work hard to get to where I am. And hard work doesn't kill anybody, it just makes us better. Any last words, Nasreen?
Want to tell everybody who's been sitting on the fence and who hasn't got a copy of the philosophy of niche principles to get your fingers walking. Click on the link on Munira's Facebook page. She will put it up. Get yourself a copy and get reading and working through it, because it will help you in ways and open up doors for you that you never thought possible. I also want to encourage readers to stop sitting on the fence about what they want to do with their lives. They should take the risks. They should explore their passions, because it is in passion that you find joy in what you do. And if you find joy in what you do, then there is no reason that you will not be successful. Take the plunge, take the risks, get yourself a copy of the book, and make sure that you work through it rather than just read it and then put it on your library shelf. This is not something to just keep there. This is something you want to go back to, refer to over and over again, and learn from over and over again. And then you want to teach it, and you want to create a chain of niche navigators, niche finders. Because if everybody found joy in what we do, then we would all live in a better world now, wouldn't we? That's what it's all about. Those are my closing words.
Thank you so much for that perspective, the raw perspective of an editor who edited my book. If you are looking for an editor or somebody who can push you to write your book, then Nasreen is the person, because even when I told her I wanted to write a book, she says, well, write. What's stopping you? And while she was writing her book, it made me feel a little bit jealous, if you will, that if she can do it, then I should do it too. And I began writing my book and just started working at it every single day. I had to take a break because of my husband's illness, but I kept writing. And what I did was, I have a notepad on my phone, and every time I was at the doctor's office and a story came up, because I truly believe that when you are tuned in, doors open up and ideas are downloaded into your head. Don't ask me how that happens, but the universe comes together to work with you. And I got these ideas and I kept writing them down. I didn't know how to put each story where, but I had enough material to make it a book. From what I've heard, this is a 2-hour read, but if you just read it as a book. But if you start working through it, it helps. I'm having my 10-year-old grandson read it right now, and he's pretty amazed because he never knew half the stories in my life that I put in the book. So he's pretty amazed at the stories, but he's learning, and we're laying foundation for him to become confident. The 6 C's and the 3 P's that are listed in the book. And he's understanding that, life changes. And if you haven't got the book, it's on Amazon. You can look me up by Munira Zahabi. It's the philosophy of niche principles. Get it. I'll put the link on it. It's available in paperback now and Kindle version. And your review is going to help me a lot. So thank you so much. Thank you, Nasreen, for doing this for me. I really, really appreciate it.
And just for the record, Munira, the jealousy that you felt helped. It spurred you on because you reached the finish line before I did. You've published. I haven't yet.
But the thing is...
So congratulations. Wonderful. You beat me to the finish line. I'm proud of you.
Thank you. And it's not jealousy because I didn't feel jealous about being green, but I felt a pang where I said, I have these stories in my head. Why can't I do what she's doing? Nobody's going to write my book for me. I have to do it myself. So why can't I do this? And, you're an amazing inspirator, a friend in Turkey, which I will visit one day. And, you are amazing. I don't even have words to explain or share what kind of a person you've been, but the backing you've given me is amazing. So people, if you're looking for an editor, Nasreen is your person.
Thank you so much, Munira. The pleasure has been all mine. The pleasure in editing, reading has been all mine, and I'm so proud of what you've achieved. Please keep on writing. You have a lot more, I'm sure, to download, to share with everybody. So keep going at it, and I look forward to editing the second one.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Munira's Musings with your host, Munira Zahabi. If you enjoyed our show, please share and subscribe to this channel. And for more content, please join our Facebook group.